Hello, everybody. Welcome to Outpost Unknown's review of Hellraiser 2022. My name is Matthew. Joining me today over there in Sweden is Borp.
Yes, I am in Sweden. Hello.
All right, man. Let's just jump right into this. This movie has the horror world focused this weekend because it dropped this past Friday on Hulu. Went direct to Hulu. This is I guess you would call it a reboot of the Hellraiser franchise. In this film, it follows a group of, I guess, early 20 somethings. One of them, our protagonist, her name is Riley. She is a recovering addict. She lives with her brother Matt, with his boyfriend, and I think they have a roommate. I don't even remember the name of the roommate because that character does nothing in this movie whatsoever, other than show up to be cannon fodder for the Cenobites. And basically, they have a falling out. She gets sort of kicked out of the house. She's got this. I don't know. I don't know if he's a drug addict, a recovering drug addict boyfriend. He's kind of on the Matt doesn't like him. The brother's like, he's not good for you. I think she met him in AA or something like that. He decides, hey, let's go. I know this place we can rob. I had a bunch of rich people. There's a bunch of like shipping containers, and one of them left over. So they go in there, and of course, there's a puzzle box in there. I should point out at the very beginning of this movie, the opening scene is like this hedonistic orgy with no nudity going on.
Yes.
He goes into this really elaborate, beautiful room, and opens the puzzle box for this benefactor named Voight, who's, I guess he's ostensibly trying to get different people to open different stages of the box because I guess a slight difference in this one from the first film is there are actual different stages, and each stage of opening the box summons the Cenobites, and the Cenobites need, like, I think 6 sacrifices in order to give the person who then possesses the box their wish of one of 6 different things. So that's what happens. Basically, they find the box. People start getting cut by the box, and they're trying to figure out, in the stupidest ways you could possibly.
Yes. Yes.
They try to figure out what's going on. Cenobites are picking off people, and then that's the movie basically. Did I miss anything?
No, 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 not really. I mean, I think the issue I was having with like describing this film is that I feel like, and maybe this is part for the course of all the Hellraiser movies. I started thinking about like, well, what does the puzzle box actually do? And then I got tripped up because I'm like, I actually don't know.
Yeah,
uh,
I always like the joke that the puzzle box is not really a puzzle box because everyone solves it within like 10 seconds of holding it. So it's just
True,
kind of
true.
like a box.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I was excited for this. I got my hopes up a little bit because this is, I guess, this is the second, Hulu released like big horror reboot. They did Prey earlier this year. I mean, obviously they just release it; they don't do anything creatively with it. But still, Prey was very well liked, and this is a good director, David Bruckner. He did The Ritual, which I really liked. It's on
Yeah,
Netflix.
I like that. I like the Night House too.
Yes, yes. And he's done shorts for like Southbound VHS. I've liked all his stuff. That being said, I didn't really see anything in the Night House that would say like, oh, he would make a great Hellraiser movie. But people can be versatile. Um, I I mean, I was entertained by this in spots, and that's kind of the the most positive thing I can say. I don't think this was. It's 2 hours long. It's overly long, and to me, it didn't really feel like a Hellraiser movie up until like the last 20 minutes or so. It feels very much like the through standard like slasher format at Hellraiser.
Yeah, it does feel like a slasher film. Um, it, I hated this movie, not because I'm like, oh man, this is just terrible filmmaking or anything like that, but just because I was bored to tears. I thought these characters were either incredibly annoying, like our main protagonist is just one of the most annoying characters I've seen recently in a horror film, and the other characters that surrounded her, I thought were just they weren't written well. There was nothing to these characters, like you said. I think saying it's just like a generic slasher is exactly right. I mean, I remember, the original Hellraiser, which I do love the original Hellraiser. Somehow we've gotten to this point where people look down on the original Hellraiser for some reason. I still think it's a really, really good movie. I think it has, Kirsty is a great character. I remember all of the supporting characters in the original Hellraiser movie because they're sleazy. You got Frank. You got
Yes.
all of these people. There's this weird like psychosexual BDSM element to it. That's all gone here. This is just kind of like, okay, we've thrown a lot of money at this, so it looks really nice. The sets look nice, the Cenobites. I could take them or leave them. The new designs of the Cenobites, I think they, on one hand, they look they definitely look Hellraiser-y,
Hmm.
but then on the other hand, when they're walking around, I'm like, man, the makeup just looks like rubber.
Yeah,
Like
I
all their
thought it
just it
was.
looks weird.
I think overall I thought this movie was very uneven, but like especially in the with the Cenobites, like I thought in some scenes, especially the ones with like a lot of darkness, I'm like, oh, they look cool, and then I don't know, in certain scenes like there was maybe like too much light on them. They looked like really shiny and like plasticky.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Plasky. And I was like, every time I would see that, it would take me out of it. I was like,
Right.
ugh, these things don't look as scary as I want them to look because they look like kind of low budget, special effect makeup y stuff.
Yes.
Um, I 100% agree with you. This thing is way too long. 30 minutes could have been chopped out of this thing easily. My fiance fell asleep while we were watching it because it was so boring. And I think maybe the Cenobites, and that's the thing. People forget the Cenobites barely show up in the original film, right?
Yeah.
They're there for maybe 5 minutes total. Um, and even a lot of the sequels that weren't intended to be Hellraiser sequels, but they just sort of the Weinstein's pigeonholed, Hellraiser stuff into it so they could keep the rights to distribute Hellraiser movies. Most of the Hellraiser movies don't have a lot of Cenobites in them. It's not like a thing, but for whatever reason, like the first hour of this film, you just get a couple quick shots here and there, but it's just this incredibly boring, stupid drama about them trying to figure out, how they interact with each other, what's going on with the puzzle. We all know what's going on with the puzzle box. That's
Yes.
that's the problem with this movie. This is the 11th Hellraiser movie. I already fucking know what's going on with the puzzle box. I don't need an hour of obnoxious, annoying characters trying to figure out something that I, as an audience member, already know what's going on.
Yes, I've thought about this as well, and I'm this is not a spoiler because everyone who's seen the first Hellraiser will know this. But in this movie, they make it like they try to have it as a reveal that the puzzle box can resurrect people, and it's like, no, that's literally the plot of the first movie. Like we know that.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess the argument will be, well, this is a reboot for a new generation of people who have not seen the original Hellraiser, and on one hand, I think that's kind of like a fair point, but on the other hand, I don't know how many quote unquote new people are going to be like, ooh, Hellraiser, what is this
Hmm.
all about? And even if they were to do that, they'd be going back and looking at the originals anyway. So I don't know. This thing was not good in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you said that like, hey, this movie it looks good. It has certainly a much higher budget, probably like a bigger budget than all the like DVD ones combined, right? So it
Oh
looks
yeah,
nice. It looks nice, and I mean, I think the directing is like it's fine, whatever. But I mean, to me, it's just it comes back to what I was saying about like it feeling like a generic slasher movie. It feels that way in the writing as well, of like
yes,
the first like two free people that get that has that gets their blood on the box, like it just happens coincidentally. In the first movie that happens once coincidentally, and it's like it's been laying in the attic for like, or the basement or whatever, for like years, and then that happens. In this one it's
yeah.
like, no, random character number one gets stabbed
Oops,
by the box,
oops.
random, yeah.
There's a moment in this that I don't quite understand what they did here because they use this as a plot point through at a certain point in the movie, and we'll go into spoiler territory here for anyone who's listening and still is interested in watching this. They show that the puzzle box itself can be used as a weapon against the Cenobites, because a Cenobite gets stabbed with it, and suddenly that becomes one of the sacrifice. So later on, they're like, "Oh, we're going to lure another Cenobite in, stab it, and then we'll be okay." And to me, I'm just thinking like that is a really stupid plot choice. That is a
Yeah.
really dumb plot choice. And on top of really dumb plot choices, this guy that we saw in the prologue, this sort of sadistic, I guess his name is Voight. He's the guy who
Hmm.
owned this house. The house looks really cool. Beautiful architecture. I like the outside of it where they got like the steel puzzle box sort of stuff all around it. But literally, there's a point in here where this guy's like, I've created this sort of house as a trap, and they let the Cenobites in, and he just presses a button, traps them all. They can't do anything. Just literally traps them all.
Yeah.
And I know his whole point is, he got his wish in the prologue. You don't see it till the end, but basically he wanted extreme pleasure because he's just sort of like, I guess Epstein sort of fella.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there,
It's this thing of like, oh, I'm super rich and evil. I've experienced everything there is to experience on this mortal plane. So
yeah, and
yeah.
so they do this thing where basically his what do you call it? His nerve endings are being yanked and pulled and stuff
Mhm.
like that, and that's the Cenobite's version of pleasure. Pain is pleasure, blah blah blah, and he traps him. I'm like, that's all it takes. Like that is all it takes. And I just sat there. I was like, wow. So for example, let's say he's like, gotcha, and anybody did that, does that
Yeah.
completely negate the Cenobites going forward? Like, would Pinhead and the Cenobites just be trapped there for eternity? Like, what happens?
It's really strange because in other scenes they're like, they're shifting the walls and trapping their victims, right? So I mean this is dream logic, right? So whatever, doesn't really
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
make sense, but I do agree that it is stupid.
It's weird. It's even got the tropes like towards the end when our main protagonist Riley, she's got the puzzle box. By the way, my fiance noticed this before she fell asleep, and she goes, this girl has seen that blades come out of this box all the time. They're cutting people
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
and every time she goes to grab the thing, she just bare hands it like wham, grabs it, walks away. She's like, "Why would you do that when you
I
know like blades are
yeah.
coming out of it constantly?"
I was thinking about this whole time. They like argue about the box. They struggle with the box. They throw the box. Like they're so careless with this thing.
Just like I cannot believe
Yeah,
how stupid it is. But then they're like, okay, so we're supposed to follow this, strong female lead character who's overcoming her addictions and taking charge and stuff like that. And what happens? Your classic cliched thing. She runs, she trips, she drops the
yeah.
box, and then like her friend, oh, the box is there. Where is the box? Where's the box? It's right there. I dropped it. It's got to be right there. Look, I'm just like this dialogue sucks. Like this whole script just sucks.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm probably a little bit more positive. I did not like outright hate this movie. I was really negative on it for the first like hour and a half, I guess, and then I thought the ending was like, all right, well, I got at least a little bit of what I wanted out of this. Had some
Yeah. You
cool
got one
kill. Yeah.
one quarter of what you were
Well,
expecting.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
right. I mean, yes. I'm just trying to be a little bit positive.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. I can't think of really anything that I enjoyed about this, but I will throw it to you for the big question. We have a new Pinhead. What
Mhm.
did you think of the new Pinhead?
Like performance wise, it was fine. I had nothing against the actor, but I mean, I come back to like the designs, and I didn't think the new designs of any of the Cenobites, but Pinhead especially, was like very scary. And that's so subjective. It's hard to put a pin on exactly what that like why I didn't find it scary. But you know, they're just little too plasticky, a little too thin, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I I think your description of the new Pinhead is correct one, just fine. When I was watching it, I was like, man, Doug Bradley just brought so much more to this. Like like he just the way he I never blame actors for performances because it's always the director who's at fault because the director tells the actor this is what I want, keep doing this because this is what I want. And when I saw that the new Pinhead shows up like an hour and 8 minutes in, I think that's basically when Pinhead starts talking and doing shit. And I remember thinking like, what is the performance here? Because the performance is just stand incredibly still and have no inflection in your voice at all while it is modulated.
What is it you pray for?
I don't really
Yeah,
think Pinhead had much of a performance per se. And again, I don't know who the actor is. I do not blame the actor for that at all. That's what they were going for. But I was like, I don't find this Pinhead very memorable at all. And I actually went back and watched just Doug Bradley from the first Hellraiser in '87, just when he initially pops up, and he does not he does not play it as a sort of monotone thing. He's got inflection and tone, and he sort of projects menace.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Uh, and I didn't feel that with this Pinhead at all. Again, it was just fine, but it was not memorable in any way to me. And the other Cenobite designs, I like the originals better. Like I just
yeah,
like the original stuff way better than what they came up with here.
yeah. And maybe I mean, maybe this is like one of those things where you think back on a movie. But like when I think back on the original Hellraiser, I think about how you know you didn't see him for very long, but I remember how like fucked up I thought those Cenobites were and creepy and disturbing. Like I was hyping my fiance up. Not in a, like saying, hey, this new one, if it's anything like the original, it might be super fucking not up your alley because she does not necessarily like gory stuff and things like that. And to me, that is what the original Hellraiser is. It's like that has stuck in my mind as like a it's all the stuff with like Frank, right? It's just
Yeah.
horrible, right? And yeah, I guess when I think about this new one, it's just a whole bunch of like lost potential. Of like they tried to do all this stuff that the series has done successfully before, right? Of like having a kind of broken protagonist, an addict, and having that kind of be an allegory for like being drawn to the box and whatnot. But like nothing writing wise kind of works.
Yeah, and
It's all just a bunch of ideas.
I think you could have done a really awesome story with addiction as the main thing, with this protagonist. But I don't feel. I mean, I think maybe we see her take a couple pills.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. That's our connection. I know she's a recovering addict, but I mean that to me, it was like that. It's everything on this is surface level, like the most basic service level stuff. Like, oh look, guys, she's a recovering addict. Look, she ate a couple pills that she dropped on the ground, and haha, now she's all loopy because her brother's dead. And now she's trying to
yes,
convince people no one believes her. Blah blah. Haha, you could have really gone down a really dark corridor that would have brought the Cenobites really out and really done this sort of addiction sort of motif that you're trying to. I guess that's what they were going for, but again, it was almost. I hate to say this because
yeah,
this is a very violent. It was almost Disneyfied for me, too Disneyfied for me, and I was like, you know, again that descriptor doesn't quite work, but it's how I kind of felt. I wanted that original Hellraiser feel, right? Because I feel like all of the sequels to Hellraiser after that got away from that really sort of disturbing thing that Clive Barker originally intended with it. He wanted this to, like, I still remember that visual when Chatterer comes out and sticks his like fingers down Kirsty's throat while they're all showing up, and you got this weird like sadistic sexual thing going on
Yeah.
where this is disturbing. This is really disturbing, and that's what Hellraiser had going for it that made it so unique from other horror films of the time, even in the 80s, right? You didn't see that kind of stuff, and they have gotten completely away from that stuff in all the sequels, including this one. I guess I was hoping for a return to form with something that was a little disturbing and really dark, but on this I just felt it was all service level. Nothing stood out. The writing was bad, and it was 2 fucking hours long. Well, what did your fiance think? Did she like it?
Yeah, I mean, she thought it was fine, basically.
Yeah.
I like after the movie ended, I was like, I think the first thing I said was, "I'm sorry. I thought that was gonna be better." I felt sorry. Like I put her through that, but she said it was fine.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things where you consume it once and you'll never consume it again, and you'll probably forget everything about it. Which
Yeah.
disappoints me because I really liked David Bruckner, and his previous stuff I thought was really great, Ritual and The Night House. So I was looking forward to it on
Yeah.
that end. But I honestly don't even think this was that interestingly directed because I still remember those scenes in The Night House with the weird forced perspective that to show like kind of
Yeah.
like the ghost people and stuff just using things. I mean, they could have done so much stuff with that here in Hellraiser, and they didn't. It was just super generically shot, in my opinion. There were no like crazy, really interesting tracking shots. It was just like, close up, medium, long. Close up, medium, long. Here's some lights and some smoke to make Pinhead and the Cenobites look, like they did in the original. And I just was
Right.
underwhelmed with everything.
I was thinking about what you said before about it being Disney-fied. It feels very much like, one of those Marvel movies where they pick a competent director and it's like, here, do this thing and have no, creative control or no style to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he actually had creative control on this, but like that's what it feels like.
Okay, so what we always do, letter grades here. I'll start with you. What is your letter grade for the 2022 reboot of Hellraiser?
Hmm. Uh, that's C minus.
Okay, that's fair. My review, D plus. I can't really think of anything I really liked about it, but it wasn't so bad that I would just say it was like an F level sort of movie. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's competent, but this is nothing I would ever watch again. Do you have an interest in seeing a sequel?
I do, but it's this thing of like a lot of my criticisms with this is like, oh, you could have done so much more, and I always feel weird like criticizing films for saying like, or like being this thing of like, well, what I would have done with the film. You're almost criticizing
Yeah.
the movie for being something that it's not going for. But like, I thought they were gonna make it, a lot more psychosexual than it was. I thought they were gonna make it a lot more queer than it was, because that's a thing in the Hellraiser franchise, right?
Yep.
And that's something they could do, and they don't have to hide it now, right? Like they could just go all out and have it be this, what Hellraiser is. And yeah, we talked about like the writing and things like that. So yeah, I do want to see a sequel, but hopefully, with better writing, I guess.
I'd like to see a sequel and let Clive Barker take the reins again. Just be like, here, Clive, you write the story that you would really want to see with these characters and roll with it. Just see what happens. I don't even know if Clive Barker would even be interested in directing something ever again. But yeah, just not keen on Hellraiser. I'm not interested in seeing a sequel to it. But I will say the one aspect of it I did think was sort of interesting. They almost turned the Cenobites into genies in a way, like limited genies, where it's like, hey, you got 6 options here, pick an option. And I kind of like the idea of the person who quote unquote solved the original 6 years prior, Voight or whatever.
Mhm.
I like that he got, I guess, another wish, and his wish obviously was power, and power. He becomes a Cenobite at the end.
Yeah.
I like that concept, but I would have liked the movie to center around him if that was the main thing that they were really trying to convey with this film. Like, he doesn't show up until 2/3 of the movie in, and then I'm supposed to give a shit about his what he's trying to do and how he got hooked up with this guy. I don't even remember. Trevor.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, Trevor.
it came out of left field. It was like there, because that's the twisty twist, we should say. It's like, oh yes, Trevor's been working with him the whole time and helped put this puzzle box in his girlfriend's possession and stuff. I'm just like, what? Why? What? Like, what is it? Like, what? Give me a reason that this should be a thing. Show me Trevor in the opening sex orgy sequence,
Yeah.
the no nudity orgy that was going on. And that's the other thing. If you're going to go hedonistic and try to get me to buy in that a character is so depraved and wants all of these sensual things, you've got to show it to me. You can't do a slow motion pan by a room off the side of the hallway with some completely clothed people grinding on top of each other, and suddenly, like, this guy is the most hedonistic Epstein-esque level person ever. Like, you got to go all out, and they didn't do it. They pulled their punches. It felt Disneyfied, and I didn't like it. So, thank you, Borp. Thank you, Borp.
Thank you.
So, listeners, feel free. Do you disagree with us? Leave a comment on the new Hellraiser movie. It's on Hulu right now. You can go check it out. Let us know what you thought.